See, warm people, warm hearts. So we believe in warm places. That is why.
That,
So
but Atul is also quite warm sitting in Shoolini.
It is just 41 degrees.
It's about 40 over there, I guess.
See, I'm part of the millennial generation. That's what I like to believe. So I'm either hot or cool. You know, warm is. Anyway, once again, good afternoon, everyone. We've got another minute to go.
Good afternoon, sir.
And I think with your permission, in another minute, we will start. I think we have around 20 odd teachers with us. I think others might be joining. So Vivek, with your permission, in another 40 seconds, we will start.
Okay. Please, yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone.
I'm joining back in 1 minute.
Sure,
The teachers are joining, yes.
That's right. So we'll take another 30 seconds to start.
Definitely.
That's right. So we can take another minute to start. It's 3:30. So, ma'am, you're in Ambala or you live in Ambala?
Yes,
Neela,
sir.
ma'am?
I do. Yes, I'm from Panchkula, but just because of the school, I had to shift to Ambala, as it was a new school 2 years back. So
Fantastic.
everything had to be set. But luckily, with God's grace, now we are almost settled, and things are smoother now. But of course, in the beginning, it's not so easy to set up a new school.
I know. I remember setting up Shoolini. It was so tough. Early days are so difficult, especially with the regulators and everyone around. It's not easy.
Yes, sir, definitely.
So Vivek is also from Panchkula,
Right, sir.
your hometown.
Right, sir.
So to the participants,
I've heard
another.
about him a lot, sir. I've read about him. I've heard him also, and I'm quite impressed actually by him. And I really am looking forward to learn more from both of you, and rather all of us are looking forward.
I think we're looking forward to learning from you also, Neela ma'am and Meenakshi ma'am. So
you,
Meenakshi ma'am, if you can come and you can come online so we can start.
Yes, I
Vivek, Neela ma'am, Meenakshi ma'am, if you allow me, can we start now?
Yes.
Yes, sir, definitely.
Excellent. So good afternoon, teachers. Good afternoon, Vivek, Meenakshi ma'am, Neela ma'am. What a beautiful day today, and welcome to Ideas That Matter, series of webinars by Shoolini University, Khosla Hills, Himachal Pradesh. We're located, just to tease all of you, up in the mountains where it's around 24-25 degrees Celsius now. Absolutely stunning and beautiful at this moment. The flowers are up, the bees are buzzing, and the birds are chirping as I speak to you, all of you. We started Ideas That Matter to inspire each other. The idea was that as teachers, we need to get inspired despite COVID, share experiences so that we can inspire our students. And we've been very, very lucky. Something that we started very small, Vivek and I and Shikha, is today a big revolution. We've touched around 40,000 teachers as we speak, another 30 to 35,000 parents and students. This is the 46th session, if I'm correct. And really, really thankful for all the teachers on this panel today. The session today is going to be about online learning. How do we go about giving the best to our students? I think all of you are online warriors. You are Corona warriors. You have adopted online in a very sizable way. What we'd like to do over the next 40-45 minutes, Vivek and I would like to demystify some truths about online. While online is not much different from teaching in a classroom, there are some subtle things about how you can make online learning more effective. And that's going to be our attempt today. My name is Atul Khosla. I am the founder and pro-vice chancellor of Shoolini University, Khosla Hills. I'm a BTech from IIT Kanpur, an MBA, then spent 20 odd years in the industry. 7 different countries, 25 different cities, multinationals, CEO of a couple of firms before the teaching bug hit me. And I'm a very proud teacher now, and I've been pushing the adoption of technology for a very long time at Shoolini, and we're very lucky that we started the journey 6 years back. So when COVID happened, we were able to transform ourselves very, very quickly, virtually within 24 hours into a virtual university. Vivek Atray, quick introduction. Vivek is an ex-IAS officer, a motivational speaker, author of 3 books, a TEDx speaker, etc., etc., etc. I think I'll spend the whole day talking about Vivek's accomplishments. But I love Vivek for the wonderful IT path that he led in Chandigarh when he was Director IT for the Chandigarh administration. He's also a visiting professor at Shoolini, teaches quite a bit over here, but more importantly, a very dear friend. And Vivek and I meet every day nowadays over the web, over Ideas That Matter. So before we start, Vivek, I'll request Meenakshi ma'am to please take a minute, introduce the subject, and we'll then dive into the discussion. The format, friends, is going to be 10 minutes or so of inputs from Vivek. I will then take you through a small presentation on my experiences of online at Shoolini, and I do a lot of webinars and discussions, and so does Vivek. He does 3 to 4 every day. And we'll then get into a question and answer. So do not hesitate to please ask any question that you have. So Meenakshi ma'am, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Atul. And it is a real lucky day indeed. One, because I have passed by Shoolini universities a couple of times, and I always thought that I would love to meet these people. So this is a lucky day indeed. Second, because Mr. Vivek Atray, he has been making inroads into every place of Chandigarh. And you talk about literature festivals, you talk about anything, and he's always there. And I have been to those places simply because I want to hear him speak. So that is why it is a beautiful day indeed. And more so it is because we are going to talk about our children, our dear children who are really, they need our help, and from any corner of this country. Now, if I have to talk about this particular topic that we are going to discuss, it is not an easy journey for the teachers. It is, as I started off, of course, you were very lucky because technology was in place. You are lucky you have the tech backup, your tech bent of mind and things like that. Though I also come from the computer, I have a very technically romantic combination. I'm a computer and a literature teacher.
Wow.
So it was, it's a very different combination. Literature was a passion, and then computers came along simply because when I was, I had my daughter, so nothing to do, so I learned computers. Then I went on to do Java, Python and everything. Now the whole thing is, are our parents tech savvy? The biggest difficulty I am facing, and after working internationally, coming to a place like Rohtak is quite challenging, simply because not all the parents are tech savvy. So my journey here had been complete 1 week. Mornings I was doing it for my teachers. We were discussing how to use Zoom, how to use Padlet, how to use Google Classrooms. And then finally teaching the parents in the evening, taking a Zoom for them. So most of the parents were very reluctant, and they said only WhatsApp because our wives are not comfortable with technology and we husbands cannot support. So those barricades have finally fallen down because a couple of Zooms, couple of special meetings only with the mothers, then only Hindi speaking mothers, and all these things have finally fallen into place. And they were so reluctant. And then obviously a teacher in me said, okay, the Hindi speaking mothers, how many would you like to become comfortable in English? And then I now take 9 to 10 at night special English classes for the mothers also. So
Wow.
It is revolutionizing education every which way. So I told them, see, this is a golden opportunity. So when you said silver lining in the whole thing, yes, indeed, there is a silver lining. Those mothers who never knew that they would get to speak English, now they are recording their voices and they're telling me, ma'am, check karna, kisi ko sunana nahi, is it okay? So, and you know, that cultural change is happening. So probably because of COVID, we have come very close to our parents. Otherwise, we would just see them at the PTMs. Now, whenever they don't understand, they are at liberty. So 11 o'clock, my window closes at night. Till that time, parents can call, they can discuss, they can talk. And I think now children also feel that earlier they would say that this has not happened in the school. Now they can't say that because parent is sitting right next to them. So, and at the same time, the difficulty what here I would say is that still we really lack resources from the government, in the sense that this connectivity issue is a big problem. So in the morning assemblies, the connectivity is very fine. By the end of the day, it dips and all. So parents are spending some money on buying data, probably much faster than what they were doing. So if I look into the whole scenario, we should now, the country should now work towards the strong infrastructure for telecommunication, so that, because this COVID will be part of us. So let's accept COVID as a friend, not as a virus, and then take the things along. Because sometimes your enemy is always hidden. So how do you protect yourself? So you have to be technologically sound. Your teachers have to be. Now I think I'm going to look at those resumes where they say, I can handle Padlet, Kahoot, I can handle Google Classrooms for my
Absolutely.
teachers. So the
No, I'll just interrupt over here, Meenakshi ma'am. You hit the nail on the head. So we have a program at Shoolini, which is a bachelor's in education, and we've completely revamped that, where apart from, of course, education, we're bringing in a very strong component on technology, because it's not just about understanding technology, but it's also about curriculum design, how to design programs in the new world. So great inputs from you, Meenakshi ma'am. Thank you very, very much. I think you've already set the platform for a very, very interesting discussion. So if you allow me, I'm going to request Vivek Atray to take the stage and take us through his journey of becoming a great TEDx speaker. How you felt when you first spoke to the camera, Vivek? How did you go about preparing for those 12 minutes that you get for TEDx? And how did you get those 3 million views that you have on your different talks? We'd love to hear that. I think the teachers would love to hear that, because we all want to become superheroes like you. Tell us, and I would then love to take all the teachers through my journey, and we'll then get into Q&A. Mr. Vivek Atray, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Atul Khosla. Thank you, Mrs. Meenakshi Elawat and Ma'am Neelam Sharma. Thank you very much, all of you. And it's lovely to be connected like this, although one day perhaps we can actually come to your schools. I know one of you is in Ambala and one of you is in Rohtak. Ambala, we don't consider to be a part of Haryana actually. I have served in Haryana, but Rohtak is definitely Haryana, and Rohtak is the heart of Haryana. And all the Haryanvi jokes also come from Rohtak. So, Ma'am Meenakshi, you're absolutely right when you say that parents will find it difficult in Rohtak and nearby areas to connect. Paternally, even my village town now, Kharkhoda, is not far from Rohtak. My Dadaji used to live there, and he is Dr. Radhakrishnan. He passed away. My father was an IPS officer, and we never lived in Rohtak or Kharkhoda, but we lived in Chandigarh or Delhi. So as children. But we will talk about it. Coming back to the topic and why we are here, Neelam ma'am and Meenakshi ma'am and all the teachers who have joined us, I would say that we are now in an era where we have to upscale our skills. We have to improve our skills, and we can do it. It is a challenge, but everybody can do what needs to be done. Human beings are very adaptive. You know, in this lockdown era, when we first came into the lockdown, everyone thought, oh no, that time we thought 2 weeks, then we thought 4 weeks, then we thought 6 weeks, then how many weeks we don't know now. So we have come to a point where we have adapted. We have come to a point where we thought that we could not live without our Sagar Ratna and our cafe coffee day and our various other things, but we are living without them. And we've come to a point where we thought that we could not teach online. We do not want anything to do with computers, but we have started. I and Atul, as he said, have been carrying on these webinars for the last 45 series. It has completed, and we have touched lives, I wouldn't say, but at least the minds and hearts of so many teachers and students and parents also in some cases. In these webinars, we have been able to talk about various subjects like leadership, emotional intelligence, people skills, public speaking skills, and finding success within. But all of these webinars are held through technology. And as Atul said, when you are speaking to a camera, then you are speaking virtually and not in the real setting. When you are in the class, then the students are smiling back at you or looking cluelessly back at you depending on how receptive they are or how good you are. But here you don't know what is happening behind the screen and behind the scenes. Parents are sitting with them. There are plus points of that. There are minus points of that. Even the neighbor and the chacha and the dada and the dadi, and they may also be sitting there. We don't know. So the teacher suddenly becomes a public speaker. While in class, you are faced only with students who are obviously junior to you in terms of learning, in terms of skills, in terms of knowledge. Here, suddenly you are exposed to a wide platform which is open to many people. So you have to really be on the ball, as they say, and you have to be ready at all times. What can you do? You have to pretend that you are speaking before a camera, but you also have to be yourself. Practice before you come on stage. Practice before you go on camera. So one thing you can do is to put on your camera in your phone and start speaking into the phone and record. In the morning, in the night, not during the class, I mean, besides the class. Speak for 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Watch yourself. See if you like yourself. Speak on a particular topic which you're comfortable with. I know you don't get much time, but that 5 minutes or 2 minutes or 4 minutes of practice will help you. And when you go live on the camera, there are a few tricks which I adopt. Firstly, see your setting. Right now, I have practiced, so you can see a plant on my one side. You can see a painting behind me. You can see a lampshade, hopefully. You can see a bit of an artificial flowers coming from this way. And you can see this book, Autobiography of a Yogi, which is my favorite book. If you see my CV on LinkedIn, please connect and see. You will see Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. So my setting is practiced and prepared. Atul Khosla, his setting is there. Behind him is a banner of Shoolini University. By the way, Atul will mention probably that Shoolini has found its way to the highest rankings in the region, and in some cases, the highest rankings in the country. And Shoolini University is also the highest patent filer in the country in terms of institutions. It's a pleasure for me to be a visiting professor and advisor to Shoolini. And that's what I was saying. So your setting has to be prepared and ready. If we are too close to the camera or too far away from the camera, we are not going to be comfortable. So people who are good looking, beautiful or handsome, suddenly start looking, I'll use a very strong word, start looking grotesque when they are absolutely in the camera. So please distance yourself. Distancing yourself will look a little better, not too much and not too little. Of course, your technology has to be appropriate. It need not be hi-fi. Wi-Fi need not be hi-fi. It can be just enough to keep you going. And you also have to prepare your content just like you prepared it in a classroom. Because when you go to the class, you are prepared. You know what you're going to say. Here you are worried about camera, you are worried about connection, you are worried about students. You are not worried about all these things in the class. So we have to minimize these distractions and disturbances by firstly being prepared with our content. Secondly, we need to come online or be in our seat 10 minutes before. 10 minutes before so that you can be comfortable. Somebody, your children took away your some device which you needed, some modem is missing, some little child came into the room and dropped water somewhere. So be prepared before you go online. Have a chair and table if possible. And once you start speaking, speak with confidence, speak with the same delivery that you would have had in class. Speak rather that you are as if speaking on a stage to an audience of 500 people. If you speak like that, your voice will be loud enough. People will not be able to draw their attention away from you. My principle, which has worked in my TEDx talks, Atul asked me to talk about it, is that I don't give people time to get distracted. So I will keep on telling them something or the other. And I can tell you from my first book, Move On Bunny, that Move On Bunny is a book about Bunny Kapoor, a young hero. A hero means a hero of life. And Bunny Kapoor once comes to a railway station. A lady comes up to him. He doesn't expect anybody to pick him up. But this lady comes up to him and says, Mr. Kapoor. And he says, yes. And Bunny is surprised. How does she know me? And she says, come, sir, the car is waiting for you. She takes him there. He doesn't expect anyone to pick him up. Goes into the car. She takes him straight to the college or somewhere. And they are a little late, perhaps, for something. He doesn't know what it is. She said, come, Mr. Kapoor. And Bunny Kapoor goes. Immediately, she puts him on the stage. Okay, sir, it's time for your session. All the best. He has no idea which session, what topic, what college. He is not the same Mr. Kapoor they are looking for. So it's a book. But sometimes you can find yourself in unfamiliar situations like that. And then you will find that you have to really, here you are prepared. So just be confident and go ahead. Atul is going to show you some video, and he's going to also share some secrets about online teaching, which are very important. So please, Atul, come in, and then we'll come in for some more points later.
Thank you, Vivek. The classical challenge when online happened and I dropped off. You were so innovative. I think I was supposed to come in a little earlier and you did it so beautifully. So my apologies, teachers, but that's exactly what happens and you need to be prepared. I hope I am audible now, Vivek.
Yeah, go ahead, Atul.
Wonderful. So what I'm going to do is take 2 minutes to take you guys through the journey of Shoolini, my particular journey, and I will then take you through a small presentation. So Shoolini is a beautiful university, like Vivek said, which I co-founded. It's located in the Himalayas. And I wanted to share a small video about Shoolini before I get into my presentation. So if you allow that, Vivek.
Sure, please go ahead.
Lovely. So this will give you a sense about what we do, and we'll then get into the discussion. So the reason I wanted to show this video to you was because I wanted you to go back with one word, which is inspiration. I believe, which I'm sure all of you teachers do, that education is nothing but the business of inspiration. If you can inspire our students, I think more than 75% done. Challenge is exactly that. Inspire our students in a medium that is so far away. If you've not students, if you've not looked, if you've not felt them, how do you inspire them? And if you can't inspire them, how do you make them learn? and how do you make them world beaters? So very quickly at Shoolini, we started believing that the world is going to change around 5 to 6 years back, and we started investing in online, and we created a platform called eUniversity. We were very lucky because, of course, we didn't know what was happening, but all our teachers, by the time COVID happened, were fully trained on online. So what I'm going to present over here, Vivek, will be some learnings of my life and some learnings that we have from Shoolini. So if you allow me, I'm going to put a small presentation together. I'm going to take around 10 minutes, not more than that, and take all of us through our learnings at Shoolini about this wonderful way that we call online teaching. Okay, I'm going to share the screen. Can you all see it, Vivek? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. So the way I'm going to present is I'm going to take you through 5 stories through my life, my learnings around how to go about delivering great online learning. So as I mentioned to you, I started my career with a company called McKinsey & Company. Now you will say, where does McKinsey come into online learning? Way back, 25 years back when I started working, Vivek, we used to do a hell of a work around video conferencing. When people were learning for video conferencing, and we learned at that point of time how to collaborate with each other over video conferencing. So over the journey, over my life of 25 years, I learned a few things. We've learned a few things at Shoolini, and that's what I'm going to present to you guys today. The first story is a person called Ranjit Pandit. Ranjit Pandit was an extremely charismatic leader. So the first thing I remember Ranjit telling me was, invest in your toolkit. So teachers, the future toolkit for all of you is online. You will have to invest in the right online toolkit. If you think about Amazon, if you think about a carpenter, all of them have the right toolkit to succeed. You cannot become a great carpenter without a great saw or a great randa in your toolkit. And that's exactly, I think, as teachers, you'll have to invest in. You'll have to have a great connection at home, a quiet place to work, and a great computer. And I'll take you through the specifics of what's needed. This is the bare minimum that you'll need to ensure that, the type of goof-ups I went through in a second, despite all the precautions I take, still happens, doesn't happen to you. So you'll have to invest in a high-speed internet. Wi-Fi, friends, is very unstable. So you need fiber right onto your computer. You need a laptop with a quality webcam. Mobile phones don't work. You possibly need a noise cancelling headset like I've invested in, a technology platform to use, a learning management system, a video platform like Zoom, like what we have today. And how do you assess the students? So proctoring platform, proctoring technology. Of course, your school will have to provide this technology platform to you. And finally, the way you teach is going to be very, very different. A classical example is that the human mind cannot absorb more than 20 minutes of content over a video, over the internet, over a screen. So your classes, which were probably 40 minutes earlier, are probably going to now become 20 minutes of classes and 20 minutes of assignments given back to your students. You'll have to learn to break out your students into teams. There's a concept called a breakout room in Zoom and other platforms that you use. So you'll have to learn how to do that. Of course, I'm sure your school will give you a lot of teaching. So let me go a little more into detail because it's so important about what this learning toolkit would be. So there's 6 broad things which I keep on telling my faculty. The first is the PC and the laptop and the hardware that you have, and we'll speak a little bit about it. The software that's going to sit inside this computer, a dedicated space, what type of desk and chair do you need, connectivity to ensure that internet doesn't drop, and finally, tools that you need, the collaboration tools that you need to make it happen. Okay, if you don't have a laptop, please do invest in a laptop. Minimum that you'll need is a 2 gigahertz processor, 5th generation i3. I'll send this presentation over to your principal so you can actually get it. You need the right amount of RAM, at least 4 GB of RAM in your computer to make things run. Software in terms of you need a VLC player if you're playing videos over there. You need Java, Adobe, and a bunch of other softwares on your computer. Most of the computers that you'll buy will come. Yes, you need a webcam with a minimum 2 megapixel platform if you have to give a quality presentation. You need some USB ports in there. All this is pretty standard in laptop nowadays. I hope you guys already have one. If you don't have one, you'll have to invest in one. Please do that. Like I said, this is going to be your toolkit to become an effective teacher. The second thing that you need to do is start investing in your cubicle, your place at work. Make sure it's dedicated. Make sure that it's a place where, it's quiet. Make sure that it's a place, you're not sitting on your bed, and doing your lectures. Make sure that your work zone that you have is noise-free, has dark curtains in there. If you're at home and you're working from home and you're taking lectures from home or your bedroom, put a small notice. That's what I do on the door, which says, please do not disturb. I am working. You'll have to do that like you do that at school. Have a fixed schedule, teachers. If you get up and get ready like you do at school, which all of you do so beautifully, do exactly that. Get up at 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, get ready, and leave work after 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock. It's very, very important that you maintain a work-life balance. I know some people in this time are working Saturdays, Sundays, sometimes up to 10 o'clock, highly avoidable. Please make sure that if 4 o'clock is when your school ends, you end your work at 4 o'clock. And finally, office furniture, your furniture you're going to sit in. Remember, you'll be sitting and speaking for a long time. If you're doing 8 or 9 lectures in a day or classes in a day, that's multiplied with 20 minutes, around 4 to 5 minutes of sitting. So make sure that you have a proper office chair. Make sure you have a proper lit desk. It's so very, very important. Like I said, make sure that the room is noise-free. How do you do that? You can buy some heavy curtains, for example, dark curtains, to make sure that light and sound don't peep in. It's very important for you that you have a soft light on your desk to make sure that you show and exude the right glow on your face that all of you teachers have. Get the right collaboration tools and the right connectivity. So like I said, minimum 3 to 5 megabits of connectivity you're going to need to make sure it needs to be on fiber. Wi-Fi doesn't work very well, but if you have Wi-Fi, at least make sure it's hung around your midway between the floor and the ceiling. That's typically the best to make sure that droppage doesn't happen, while that's not preferable. You'll need collaboration tools because some people from time to time will work on different platforms. So make sure that you'll have Zoom on your computer. Some people use Skype, WebEx, Slack, Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive. I think you're using Google Handouts, you're using Google Rooms, etc. Microsoft Teams. So have all those softwares already on your platform so that when you're getting on your lecture or you're receiving something, you don't have to download at the last moment. So these are very, very basics. These are hygiene factors. So that's what Ranjit taught me. Invest in your tools. The second thing is what Todd Furness taught me. Todd was my boss after I moved from McKinsey to a company called Everest. Extremely charismatic guy. And what he taught me was that wherever you are, however you are, always make sure that you're dressed to kill. The same thing, teachers, is very, very important on online. You cannot look sloppy. The way you dress in your beautiful saris and your beautiful salwar kameezes, do that every day. Do that every day in front of the computer. Remember, like what Vivek said, It's actually much more interesting than teaching in a classroom. In a classroom, you're probably being looked at by 40 of your students or 30 of your students. Online, who knows? The dada dadi, nana nanis, the parents are all looking at you. You're all actors. This is your opportunity to actually become the best online teacher, and you can't do that unless you're dressed properly. My third thought is another great person I worked with, Tom Peters. He's a very famous author of a book called In Search of Excellence. What he taught me many, many years was that make sure that your office is a quiet, convenient space. I spoke about this. It's very, very important that when you're giving your online lectures, you don't have your children, your dog, your mother-in-law speaking behind you. A very embarrassing moment happened with a colleague of mine recently, Vivek. I was speaking to her. She's quite junior to me, and suddenly her mother-in-law came in and started scolding her for something, some food, bad food that she'd made, and avoidable. I mean, it was so embarrassing for her. It could have been her mother also. I mean, but this happened to be a mother-in-law. Embarrassing situation, right? So just make sure that, like you'll do in your staff room, you make sure that you have the territory very well designated. So one of the things I do when I go home is that I put a big poster in front of the room saying, I'm working when I'm working. And when you're not working, do take your breaks, go and have coffee outside. But that's the discipline that you guys will need to have. All of us will need to have. Why teachers? Paramahansa Yogananda would always say, as Vivek would always say, and he's a big follower of Paramahansa Yogananda, be calm. Stay actively calm and calmly active. It is very stressful speaking to a computer. It is not easy. I take 3 to 4 webinars every day and I get quite stressed. I think it takes a huge amount of energy talking into a computer because you don't get the same energy back, which you typically do in a classroom. And it's a monologue, it's not an engagement. And that's where meditation comes in. Please start doing some meditation or some yoga or some physical thing. For example, apart from meditation, Vivek, you'll be pleased I've started playing badminton every day. It gives me the clarity of mind. It gives me the clarity of thought to ensure that I can teach better when I'm speaking to my students. And finally, the fifth thing, which I always say is practice, practice, practice. Practice is what will make you perfect. Quick story about me. I couldn't speak a word of English when I went to IIT Kanpur. My first job was a disaster. I was told by my CEO that please leave the job because you can't speak English very well. You stammer, and I was stammering. So what did I do in those days? There used to be these handy cams, cameras. So I went to Singapore, bought a handy cam, and for the next 7 years, every day between 7 and 8 in the morning, I was speaking to the camera on some topic or the other. I learned how to speak, and that's what I'm using nowadays. I do a reasonably okay job. Earlier, I couldn't have done this. It's very, very difficult to come in front of an audience if you don't speak well. I can't dance. But when my students ask me to dance, Vivek, I always go on stage and dance. I try to practice because if I've done it a few times and I put myself in that uncomfortable zone, then I'll probably learn to do it better and better and better. So teachers, practice your lecture. Practice in front of your husbands, your daughters, your wives if you're male. But make sure that you practice. It's going to be a 20-minute lecture, but you might have to practice 20 minutes before that. I'm told Mr. Modi, before he gave his very famous Thali Bajao speech, practiced for 4 hours before that speech. It was perfect. And that's what we have to do every day as teachers. Just a quick recap, invest in your toolkit, look smart always wherever you are, wear your best clothes. Your office needs to be at a quite convenient place. Make that in your home. Stay actively calm, calmly active, get into physical activity. Do something which gives you calmness. Meditate if you can. And Vivek, I love that you speak about this after this. And finally, practice, practice, practice. And that's what's going to make you perfect. And think outside the box. My mentor is Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs would say, you have to think crazy. If not the ones who can think crazy, you will never change the world. And you teachers are trying to change the world because you're trying to make ordinary students extraordinary. So quick, a video about Steve Jobs. You love it. This is my favorite. And after I play this, I'm going to request Vivek to come on stage.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
So Vivek, I ended up by saying, this is my pitch to dear teachers. If someone tells you how to give a perfect online class, do not believe them because no one knows, trust me. We all experiment. So think crazy, because if you think different, if you think crazily, you will be the ones who will be the pioneers. You will be the ones who change the world. So let's change the world. Let's experiment every day with new forms of online teaching, online learning. And I'm sure over time we'll figure out the best possible way to give the best possible inspiration to our students. Thank you very much. That's for me today. And of course, I'd love to answer any questions. But Vivek, over to you.
Thank you, Atul. Very brilliant presentation, very inspiring, and all those achievers who you learned from, that is a great story. I think teachers, you picked up a lot of tips and ideas from Atul. I would add a couple of more things to what I said earlier. Being yourself means that you are comfortable in that environment. When we are uncomfortable, then we will not be able to teach as well as we can. So try and become comfortable with this screen time, with this performance, because there's no other way. Of course, we will go back to class, and maybe this will happen only once in a while, but it will be a part of our lives. So you have to become comfortable with the video. And all the time, you should not feel that, this is not my thing. I am not appropriate for this. I can't do this. That negativity will show. So if you are cheerful, positive, and just like you are in the classroom, do your best. Maybe you have some technical problems. Maybe you are at home, you have somebody walking in, like Atul said, somebody's mother-in-law came. Could be the mother, could be the daughter, could be somebody. So disturbances can be there, but try your best to eliminate that. As Atul said, we can't be perfect, but we can try to eliminate perfection. We can try to eliminate imperfections, and we can try to improve. So let us try to improve as much as we can. One or two more tips. When you have prepared your content and you are yourself, you are comfortable, you're not trying to be artificial, then be peppy, be full of vibrant energy, be full of, statements which will draw attention from the students. Suddenly say something. Did you know that the star which we see in the evening is a star which is called this? Do you know the story behind that? You have to make your lecture or talk or class very interesting while teaching. Maybe come up with a story. I came up with one, Atul came up with some, and I'll also come up with one at the end. Stories, anecdotes, jokes, little bit, and also involve your students. Online teaching has to be two-way. You have to get them to reply to your questions. You have to ask quizzes. You have to get them to be responsive. Otherwise, you don't know where their minds are. Of course, minds are difficult to control. but at least their eyes and ears should be focused on you. And it is very, very necessary that you keep engaging them for that. Keep on interacting, keep on asking questions, keep on recommending or commending someone that this person, yes, you did very well. Atul, you were very good. Meenakshi ma'am, you were very good. Neelam ma'am, you were very good. Say something that makes them sit up. Or you can even discipline someone that you are never regular. So next time I'm going to be watching you very carefully, Amit. Whoever Amit is, Amit will be more conscious next time. So try to do your best. It is a new environment, online teaching. But the basic principles of teaching are the same. Preparation, delivery, engagement, interaction, voice control, stories, humor, the flow, and the time limit. Always remember that there is a time limit and you have to structure your lesson, plan your lesson accordingly. It's a very narrow topic today, and we have done whatever we could to tell you about it. There are so many things that can be discussed with teachers, so many skills that can be discussed with teachers. So we are going to probably come back another day and talk about other topics with you. I think in this era, you can do no better than to implement some of the things that we have told you. And I'm sure that you are already doing so. So over to Atul for the Q&A and other comments.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vivek. I think at this juncture, I'll request Neelam ma'am and Meenakshi ma'am to also come on stage, or I would say come online. We'll truly appreciate if you can also participate in the discussion. My very last thoughts are use of audio visuals in your discussions, in your online discussions with your students. There are lots and lots of open resources available, which are very exciting, that you can bring in as you give your online lectures. Please use that. Students get excited. It also pauses them. It also helps you drink a glass of water because you'll get tired giving your classes. So use a bit of that. And finally, I would request the schools to invest in a effective LMS or a learning management system and a pedagogy and a proctoring system so exams can happen and assessments can happen. One of the things that we do is that after every 20 minutes of a lecture, we bring in a small quiz to the students. That quiz is automatically scored, and that score goes into the internal assessments of students. So it makes sure that the students are engaged, because many times students are actually not listening. They put it on for attendance and they're like playing. So how do you sort of avoid that is something that we've learned. Small tips, like I said, no one is perfect in this game. We're all learning. So find your own rules, find your own ways to get this stuff done effectively. I think at this stage, I'll request some thoughts from Neelam ma'am and Meenakshi ma'am on how you're doing it. So Meenakshi ma'am did give some thoughts. Neelam ma'am, we'd love to hear a little bit of your thoughts, what you're doing in your school. And then there are a few questions coming in. So teachers, please keep on asking questions. We've got another 15 or 18 minutes to go, and we love to answer every question of yours. Neelam ma'am, your thoughts.
Thank you so much, sir, first of all, for enlightening us with such an important topic, which is actually need of the hour and very, very badly required. And you're very right. We are also trying every day. And of course, we have not reached that perfection. And but we are making our efforts, and Zoom classes, of course, they're helping us a lot. Besides Zoom classes, so we are also focusing on the social emotional health of children also, because I feel the children are also finding themselves in a very, very unexpected scenario, and they have a lot of stress. As we are stressed, I think their stress is even more than us. So besides teaching, besides giving them we have timetable, we have schedule where teachers are practicing first, as you told, and everybody has become actually an actor also, besides being a teacher, because they are actually, as you know, that if so many people are watching them, that's very true. So we also make sure that our teachers are at their best when they're presenting their classes, and not only in their chapters, in their content, but also in their presentation and everything else. Now, besides that, we also have some activities in order to make the children lighter. We have even the games, some we introduce. Besides, of course, teaching is there. Of course, it is. We have tests, we have schedule for that. And besides that, we are also focusing on their mental health also, because we want the children to feel comfortable and face this new unexpected world, you can say, with which we have to actually live. Because now I feel corona has become a part of our life, and we really don't know when we'll be away from it. So let us accept it, which I want even my children and my teachers to accept. And online teaching is one very, very effective way of making that happen actually. So that is why we chose this topic, and I'm sure with the Mr. Vivek's words and your advice, we will definitely do better and will emerge out as good teachers who are capable of online teaching and other things. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Neela ma'am. I can tell you that one of the Corona warriors, the true Corona warriors of India have been teachers, and somehow the
Definitely.
media has completely missed this. They don't talk about the teachers, but think about it. It's so difficult for a teacher to be a mother, a daughter, or daughter-in-law, a wife, and still go out and teach and make sure that not a single day is lost for learning. So hats off and salute to all of you. You've done amazingly, amazingly well. I think there's some questions which are coming in. Meenakshi and Vivek, should we pick them up?
Sure, please.
Yes, please do.
So Shweta Sharma ma'am is saying all the point. Am I there?
You are not audible. Yeah, your connection.
I'll read it out, Atul. You have a connection problem, I think.
Okay, my connection is probably unstable. Vivek, am I there?
Atul, yeah. Atul, you can answer this one. How to plan for online exams?
Right. So the most important thing in online exams is online proctoring, online invigilation. How do you make sure that students are not cheating? So there are two ways you can do it as teachers. One is the traditional way by trusting the parents. So you can reach out to the parents and say that, please, you become the invigilator and make sure that the student is not cheating during those 2 or 3 hours. I'm not sure how effective this is in India because for some reason our parents are very competitive. The better way to do it is using proctoring tools or proctoring softwares, where when the student is taking the exam, you can monitor the student. You can actually create a remote invigilation, and you can make sure that the student is not looking too much left, too much right, too much down when he or she is answering the paper. You can have multiple choice questions as answers, which are actually directly going into the computer. This is all done through an LMS. Very happy to offer. We have these platforms at Shoolini. We have our own software, so happy to offer them to your schools. Absolutely no issue. But if you don't have those, I think you have to rely on going back to the parents. I know some teachers are doing that. They're requesting the parents to become the invigilators. I think we'll all have to find our own ways of doing it. I think in higher education, because their exams are all internal and they add up to the final grade, we just can't take a risk. So we have proctoring, very sophisticated AI-driven proctoring tools. I think you'll just have to make your own call. So that's my thought on online, Vivek. I don't know what you've thought, Meenakshi ma'am, Neelam ma'am, on an exams.
We have been doing this this was the first assessment week that we had. And we were very clear, we will be giving quite a bit of objective. And in all the classes, irrespective of the age group, they were to create models, small models, Absolutely. Where they would speak about it. The models have to be made by the child. Parents are going to record the videos. And when the child is making that small model, even if it is like a paper folding activity, the child has to say why he's doing it, what he intends achieving out of it, and then he speaks. And when he's speaking about it, that is listening skills, speaking skills, and the making skill also, because when he's involved, That means he had been listening to the teacher very carefully. That is why he was able to make that model. So most of the children have been doing those things and we are getting very good results. And in some cases, like we have asked the children, it doesn't matter you can't speak in good English, you speak in bilingual, but you tell us what you learned. So what the catch here is, wherever they were not able to do it properly means they did not understand.
You've hit the nail on the head, Meenakshi ma'am. Salute to you, because in the Bloom's taxonomy, you're making students to create rather than just remember. So hats off to this format of online exams. I mean, it's open book or whatever. Students can do whatever they want, and that's actually the best way to run such exams. Absolutely. Hats off to you. Seriously, we've thought about it.
Atul, there are two more questions on Q&A which you might like to take, and then we can take the chat questions.
Right. It says, please guide us about the features of Zoom class, the way you have conducted, no interruption of other participants. That is great. Okay, I think that's a good one. We are not on a Zoom interaction. We are on a Zoom webinar. I think your school, it costs a little bit of money. I think it's $20 a month or something. So basically it means that the participants can see us, but they can't do a dialogue. I completely agree. If you allow participants to come in, it gets very, very noisy and very, very difficult. The only challenge with webinars is that I don't know whether you guys are listening to me or not, so it can be difficult. So I think in a classroom, you should use the standard Zoom conferencing platform, but the host has to be a little more effective, which means what I do is, if I'm the host, I mute everyone, but I do not allow my students, absolutely, but I do not allow my students to stop the video because I want to make sure that they're in front of me. I think students nowadays are very smart. They stop the video, they mute, and who knows what they're doing. So I mute them, but I make it mandatory that their videos are on. It's not easy. Even with my faculty, I have got something like 350 faculty members, Meenakshi ma'am. And I've been experimenting with this. I've been telling them that, friends, you're not allowed to either mute or stop video, because what I'm telling everyone is that if you can't have an uninterrupted, quiet meeting for half an hour, then how do I expect you to do an online class? And it takes me around 10 minutes to get everyone quiet, Vivek. But I do it diligently every day. People, their phones will ring, and they're people who speak on the phone. And I keep reminding them that if this was a vice chancellor's meeting, do you think you'll ever pick up your phone in the real world? Why do you do it in the online world? So I think we're all getting used to it. It's going to take time. So I think we'll have to be using carrot and stick, be nice to people, but simultaneously not accept sloppy stuff, both from students, also from teachers. That's what I would say. Vivek, over to you on the comments.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd like to just take a question from Shweta ma'am, who says that kindergarten children are obviously not attentive, don't sit at a single place. 5-year-olds are more active. I agree. In fact, my wife has a school for toddlers, and she has been not holding these online classes, but she has been sending them videos and audios recorded. That is on WhatsApp or wherever they send them. So children of 5 years and younger, it's very difficult to make them sit there and on a screen. Even in the class, it's difficult to make them sit. So you should actually send them recorded audio and video, maybe nursery rhymes, maybe stories, whatever it is. And then the parents have to ensure that they go through them at their own pace. Live classes for kindergarten are very difficult indeed.
So I'll introduce the concept of, though we all know about it, no magic, but in education, we call it synchronous and asynchronous.
Yeah.
Synchronous means live, asynchronous means non-live. For younger students, it needs to be 80 to 90% asynchronous and very little live. It's a torture. In fact, I would say up to age 12, Vivek, I think it's a torture to expect students to sit in lectures. But I think as you go into more serious study, because you also have CBSE and ICSE or whatever exams coming up, so synchronous comes in. But don't make synchronous more than 50% of a total time spent with the student. Asynchronous should be at least 50%, I think. Otherwise, it becomes a monologue and you might lose the student. I think that's my thought. I don't know, Neelam ma'am, whether you agree with this or not.
I think there's another question, Atul, on assessments online. I think you answered
Neelam
the
ma'am,
exam part.
yeah.
Online
Yeah.
assessments.
Yeah, I mean, the best way is what Meenakshi ma'am said, which is give them assignments which are, open book. Give them assignments which are about creating something. And then you don't have to worry about individualization or proctoring. But then in the classical world where ID JE exam or the NEET exam or whatever will have to be, in the traditional sense, then you have to sort of follow the trend. And like I said, either in those situations, let the parents do the proctoring or invest in proctoring tools, softwares to make it happen. But I think you will have to spend much more time in designing the question. For example, I know many of my teachers, ma'am, they pick up questions from Google nowadays. It's very easy to create question papers. They go to Google and create questions. Now, if your question is in Google, then the answer also comes like this from Google. So one of the tools I have started using, the controller examination of Shoolini, tests plagiarism of questions now that teachers are not using Google questions anymore. Of course, Google is very smart. Every time you create a question, then they'll come up with the answer. So you'll have to be ahead of Google is what I'll say as teachers. That students can't go and go to Google and answer the questions.
Here I would like to say something. Google cannot be smarter than the teachers. The teachers have to be very creative while designing their question papers. Nothing can beat a teacher's heart and mind, not even Google. So if we are bent on just making sure that our children reflect upon their learning, they are more inquisitive in knowing what is going to be next, we can create really amazing question papers. And here I would also pitch in that in a place like Rohtak, we have made a complete turnaround. Our parents are more than happy. Our children are reflecting. They are thinking. They are taking inputs from Google, but they are writing on their own because we tell them, we know your Google language. If it is Google language, we will disregard your assignment. So it has to be your expression. So in that, the mistakes are going to be there, and we want the mistakes to be there so that children know how to correct themselves. So we have been very effective in this. PBL is going to take the forefront now.
Wonderful. Madhu Sharma ma'am has got a question that, how do you assess in Zoom? Ma'am, Zoom is a video conferencing tool. It is not an assessment tool. If you want assessments, then your school will have to invest in a proctoring tool. Like I said, happy to share our platforms with your schools. So separately, Shikha can reach out to both Meenakshi ma'am and Neelam ma'am. Very, very excited to sort of share that. Absolutely no problem if that could be of any help. But Zoom is 1/3 of what you need to do online. You need an LMS and you need a proctoring tool, all the three together. You need biometric to make sure that that student is in there, Vivek, no one else who's taking the exam. You also need to have a tool that makes sure that the student is not, like I said, looking left, right, here and there. There's no noise coming into the exam. But all that technology does exist, and we've been using it now. We just finished our NSEM exams very, very smoothly. In fact, our students, I'd love to bring this up, Meenakshi ma'am. My attendance in classrooms used to be around 73.5%. You know how college students are, they love to bunk, unlike school students. So after online, because we can measure it, it's gone up from 73.5 to 94.2%. Despite all technology hiccups, we've had 99% of students taking exams. Who could not take the exams, we had assignments for them. It's been actually a very, very smooth process. The good thing about technology is that when you take exams on technology, Neelam ma'am, then you can actually use analytical tools to also identify weaknesses in students, because all their answers are on an electronic format, and you can actually then give them remedial classes based on where you see the gaps are. So technology need not be bad. It can be actually very effective also as we speak about it. So I hope I've answered a question, Madhu ma'am. And there's a question from Shweta ma'am. Vivek, you might want to pick it up.
Yeah, I think Shweta ma'am's question has been
On
answered
storytelling.
by Shikha ma'am, by Shikha. She's answered that teachers can do storytelling sessions with the MI, and conducting those sessions, and 5-year-olds enjoy them as well. I think a mix and match, Shweta ma'am, of online as well as asynchronous, because otherwise you won't be able to do it. It's very important to have the asynchronous material as well. And Shweta ma'am, sorry, Shilpa ma'am and Suman ma'am, they're all the S's. They are asking that parents don't cooperate at times. Well, that's an age-old problem, nothing to do with online stuff. Parents are parents, and I often speak to teachers, students, and parents. I think parents are the most difficult stakeholders in this process. And if parents were playing their role better, our country would be a better country. Great teachers.
I have a very different view, Vivek. Sorry, I'm interrupting. I don't know how it is for your school, but suddenly, our fees has stopped coming in because our regulator says don't take fees from students, which I find very interesting. And parents are saying we won't give fees, and the government says give all salaries, full salaries to teachers. So it's a very interesting environment we have. We'll figure out how to solve it.
Very difficult.
So it's a tough
but parents have to basically be role models, which they fail to be, and that is why children don't learn the right things. Moral values and social emotional learning, which ma'am mentioned. All these things are to be a part of not only schooling, but also learning at home. There are so many things to learn there, and meditation, etc., should also be introduced at a young age to children, which is not being done. They're not taught to think out of, their inner introspection is not part of their learning either. Values, all these things. Atul, I think we're done with the questions.
I think we're done with the questions. It's been a wonderful session. I've learned a lot. I think Meenakshi ma'am and Neelam ma'am were so candid. I think the teachers, your inputs have been so amazing. So thank you very much for all of this. There's one more question that Simi ma'am is asking. Possibly we could pick this up. Class 10 maths in which is not possible activity like what you're conducting. Ma'am, that's something you need to discuss with your principal and figure it out, Simi ma'am. I'm not sure of the details of this, so you'll have to do that. So I think before we close, I'll request each one of you, starting with Neelam ma'am, and then Meenakshi ma'am, and then you, Vivek, to give your last thoughts, but you're only allowed one sentence, okay? So that's the deal. I know it's a very tough one. So Neelam ma'am, your last thoughts.
Very challenging situation, but at the same time, very inspiring. Out of the box, very important to think what I feel. We have to think about it.
So beautifully said. Meenakshi ma'am.
COVID has actually given a lot of inspiration, how we connect together, collaborate, and we take the challenges in the right stride.
Picking up on what they both said, stay connected and combat challenges with calmness and coolness and courage and good communication skills.
Thank you, Vivek. My last thoughts would be, there was a time when people would say successful people are happy. We now say happy people are successful. So be happy, be safe. This time is about survival. COVID will pass. I think we need to live through it. So make sure that we protect our children and protect our parents. Please do that. And of course, do good online teaching. But if you can't do it that well, don't worry too much. We're all learning right now. So thank you once again, everyone. It's been wonderful, wonderful talking to you. I think all of us have been so inspirational. I would like to believe Vivek, Meenakshi ma'am, Neelam ma'am. I'm getting goose pimples right now because I'm so excited after this session. Audience, you gave us the energy to smile through this session, which is not always possible. So thank you so much for this. Vivek and I promise that we'll come to your schools and we'll speak to your teachers and your students if you invite us. But we'd definitely love to invite you to Shoolini. We have a beautiful campus. Come and see, visit us, and hopefully we can inspire your students to do extraordinary things going forward. Be safe and thank you very much. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Meenakshi ma'am, Neelam ma'am, and all the teachers on this session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much to each and everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.